been a while since I have made a booktube video. If you hear that it's raining, I'm very sorry, but I told myself I was filming today no matter what, through rain or sleet or snow, and that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, as I previously mentioned, it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. The thing of it is, I have been so busy just trying to become the person that I'm meant to be. You know what I mean? Oh. Oh my god, I'm never playing this game again. Never. I can't remember the last time that I just had an hour to sit down and do whatever I want to do, whether that be reading. Oh my god, no he didn't. No he did not. Watching something like intellectually stimulating. Oh, classic Tanya. Or just, you know, doing whatever I want to do. Okay, so real talk now, real talk. The thing is, I just have not been reading a lot of books lately. As you can see in the title of this video, this is my April, May, and June wrap-up video. It took 3 months worth of books, you know, combining them to make a wrap-up video because I just had not been reading much. I kind of fell out of the booktubosphere and I wasn't watching videos. I wasn't paying attention to, you know, the new books that were coming out. I wasn't buying books. And just this past weekend, I've really been catching up. If any of you other booktubers have seen me continuously liking your videos and typing comments, I'm not a stalker. I've just been catching up on videos, so that's why. And let's face it, I'm a bit of a stalker. It is pouring down rain now. I hope that this does not mess with the audio, but I can't stop now. I gotta keep going. So the first book that I read back in April is a graphic novel, and it is a Game of Thrones adapted by Daniel Abraham and art by Tommy Patterson. I think all of you guys know that I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I originally watched the show, and that got me into the book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, and I have since completed the book series. The story goes up to about, I'd say, like a third of the book, which I did like how they did that because there's so much to cover. You can't just fit book 1 in Game of Thrones in 1 volume of the graphic novel. I mean, unless it was like that big, you can't do it justice that way. So I enjoyed reading the story. I enjoyed seeing the pictures. I enjoyed seeing the characters the way that George R.R. Martin had originally envisioned them. The one thing about the art that I was not crazy about was the fact that, I don't know if you guys know this, but apparently every woman in Westeros is a double D cup. So when it comes to the TV series, yes, I'm aware that there is sex and female nudity, but it never really bothers me because a lot of the women use their sexuality as a weapon. In a way, it's kind of powerful, but just seeing it portrayed that way in this form was just a little too much in this instance, and that kind of just made me feel like, yeah, you're just objectifying women, you're giving this to horny fanboys, and come on, it should be more than that. It should be so much more than that. Overall, I ended up giving A Game of Thrones Volume 1 3 out of 5 stars. While I was not totally blown away, and I do wish that it could have been done a little bit better, it's still the story that I know and love, and I ended up picking up the 2nd volume, which I'm going to be reading pretty soon. So hopefully it gets better from there, and hopefully, you know, they chill on the boobage a little bit, you know. Ooh. The next book that I picked up back in April is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This story follows a woman named Libby Day, and when Libby was younger, her entire family was brutally murdered, and she famously testified that her brother was the murderer. Years later, in her adulthood, she's going through a lot of debt, she's losing money, she's basically been profiting on the infamousy of her family's murder, and that's how she's been surviving all these years. She's never had a job, so finally the money runs out, and she needs to do something to fix that. So when she is contacted by the Kill Club, which is like the secret society that solves unsolved murder cases, she's like, okay, yeah, I'm for that. Give me some money and I'll give you some details, I'll give you some information. In order to do that, however, she has to go back into her past and revisit the crime and that night and try to figure out if her brother really was the murderer. This book was 5 out of 5 stars. It was my final Gillian Flynn, unfortunately. I was kind of holding off on reading this for that reason because I've read Gone Girl, I've read Sharp Places. I didn't want to read the last Gillian Flynn because I want a backup. I couldn't wait any longer. I did it and I loved it. Like, Gillian, my girl, G. Flynn, write another book, please, because I need it. Gone Girl 2, anything, I don't care. I'll read your grocery list. Just give me something, please. The next book that I read, I think it was in April, maybe May, I don't really remember, was Jacoby by William Ritter. This book follows a young woman named Abigail Rook, and she has recently relocated from England to the United States, and she is penniless. She doesn't have any family in the States. She doesn't have a job. She has nothing. Soon upon arriving, she sees a flyer advertising for an assistant for a man named Jacoby. So Abigail goes to meet with Jacoby and discovers that he's very eccentric and he's also an investigator, a paranormal investigator, in fact. The story follows their first adventure together. It has been compared to a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Doctor Who, and while I have never seen Doctor Who before, please don't hate me, I know. I can completely agree with the Sherlock aspect of this book. It reminded me so much of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novels, but in a good way because it was done so well. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like a 4.5 stars, and I think it was only because this book is so short and I wanted more. So far, this is one of my favorite books that I've read this year. Really enjoyed it. The next book that I picked up back in April, I believe it was, or possibly May, I don't remember, is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This is a graphic novel that has been taking BookTube by storm recently, and rightfully so. It's got 4 or 5 short stories, and they all have to deal with eerie matters. They're all ghost stories of sorts. I really enjoyed it. There were some stories I liked more than the rest, but overall it was so creepy and so eerie and so satisfying, and it's a very quick read. I really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, so yes, I would recommend this. If you're in the mood for like a graphic novel, a quick graphic novel, something that's gonna like stimulate your mind and your eyeballs, I'd go for this one because it did that. The next book that I picked up is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is a book series that has been pretty popular on BookTube the past few years. It's kind of hard to describe this plot, but I will try to do it justice. This book follows a young woman named Kairu, and she is living in Prague as an art student, but her side job consists of collecting teeth for a man who has looked out for her entire life. He's not exactly a man though, he's a bit of a creature. His name is Brimstone, and he's pretty awesome. And the story kind of takes you through Kairu discovering more about her past, more about Brimstone and what he does with these teeth. Like, again, I don't feel like I can give this book a proper synopsis because it's kind of hard to sum up into words. I'm just gonna say I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. It was amazing. The next book that I read is Rivers of London by Ben Aaronovitch. I don't know. I've never known how to say this dude's name. I'm sorry. This book follows a man named Peter Grant, and he works in the police force in London, and he soon discovers that there are many things going on, very supernatural, paranormal things that are hidden below the surface, but he comes to discover what they are because he has a supernatural link to them. I can't go into too much detail about this because I read it like 2 months ago and I can't remember that much about it. It was one of those books that I started out really enjoying and then kind of getting in the middle and not enjoying so much, and then getting to the end and just skimming through it so that I could get done with it. I was not incredibly impressed by this book, and I wish that I had been because it just had so much promise, but there were a few issues. Overall, I just couldn't really stand the narrator of this book. He got on my nerves so much and was a bit of a sexist pig, so just saying. I think I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I do not think that I'll be continuing on with this series. Probably not going to continue on with the series, so yeah. The next book that I picked up is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This book follows a young man named Maya who is half goblin, and when his entire family perishes in a tragic accident, he is the last known heir to the Goblin Emperor throne, and yeah, it's a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Basically, it follows Maya as he comes to the court. There's a lot of political intrigue. There's a bit of romance. There's a lot of cool aspects to the story. It's very interesting in that way. But I have to tell you that for me, this book just got so confusing. I feel really petty saying this, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that there were so many characters and so many places and titles, and every single one was very similar. And it was very ambitious in that way. So in a way, I admired it, but in another way, I was just like, dude, I can't understand this. I really can't. I feel bad because I know that a lot of people have enjoyed this book, and I kind of feel like this is my fault. Like, I'm missing something. Like, I wasn't in the right frame of mind. Maybe I will give it another try in the future, but as of now, I'm just not sure. I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars because it had a lot of promise, and I really appreciated what Catherine Addison was trying to do, but overall, for me as a reader, it was poorly executed to my reading taste. And I know that sounds kind of selfish. Like, it's kind of like, well, it wasn't written for you, bitch, but I don't know, that's kind of how I feel about it. So 3 out of 5 stars overall. And the final book that I picked up in June, and I'm pretty sure it's the only one that I did pick up in June, yeah, is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This book is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. I was a little hesitant about Throne of Glass. I didn't enjoy the first one at all, really. And then people kept telling me, you know, read the second one, you're gonna change your mind, I promise you. So I read the second one and I did change my mind. And now I've read the third one and holy crap, I am so on top of the series. I love it now. It's so, so great. I can't really go into a lot of detail about this book considering it is the third in the series, but they go into so much more in this book, so much more into Selena's past. And if you guys have read the second one, you know that there was a huge thing that happened at the end of the second one. So they really explored that more and I just enjoyed it immensely. There were some new characters that were introduced, some that I hated and some that I slightly hated a little bit less, and then grew to really love. I mean, it was just that kind of book. It was those kinds of characters that were so kind of complex in that way. I really enjoyed that. Overall, I ended up giving Heir of Fire 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it, and I cannot wait until the 4th book, Queen of Shadows, comes out. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. We have some major catching up to do, so please leave me comments down below and let me know what you guys have been up to, what you've been reading, all of that stuff, you know. I just want to know. I want to know. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.